everybody, it's Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus from Threshold of Hineni, and we're here to do our maps. Yay! We're also going to do timelines today, but I'm going to do that in a separate video because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do these for these particular maps and for the part of the timeline that we're going to be working on today, but I'm not going to show you every time that we do a map or timeline. I'm just going to show you which map to do and then refer you back to this video if you need to review how to do it. Okay, so that way we won't take up so much time. And I do need to apologize because for those of you who are following along, I am late in doing this video, and it's kind of for a stupid reason. It's because I wanted to get my work table cleaned off. As you can see, it's a real mess. But the fact of the matter is, I'm a real mess. My workroom is crazy. It's organized, and I know where to find everything. And if I clean it up, then I don't know where to find things. They're out of sight, and then they're out of mind. So that's just how I roll. And so I just finally decided, you know what, this is the reality about me. There's no point in pretending that I'm not a mess. And maybe it'll be encouraging to those of you who are also messes. You know, one of my favorite verses from the Bible, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it is actually in the Bible, is where no oxen are, the manger is clean, but much increase comes by way of the ox. And that's Proverbs 14:4. I used to teach household management, believe it or not, household management courses at homeschool conventions, and I started with that verse because a lot of homeschoolers struggle with that because they're so busy. I mean, if you've got homeschoolers often have big families, and if you have 4 or 5 kids, which I did, which compared to a lot of homeschooling families was small, you're teaching that many grades, and you have volcanoes blowing up in one room, and you've got art projects in another, and everything. You know, it just doesn't. You're going to have a mess, and that's just the reality of it. And part of what I taught was working with that mess rather than spending all your time trying to keep everything neat and clean. So for those of you who are cringing because you are neatniks, that's fine. You can be neat. You can be, if you're a perfectionist, you can be a perfectionist, whatever. It's just not me, so I hope that you can accept me for who I am, and I will accept you for who you are. Anyway, we have these 2 maps that I asked you to print out to a size that would fit in your journal, whatever size you're using. If you're using a spiral notebook and it's 8.5 by 11, then you can print it bigger. If you're using a regular journal, or if you made a journal for the Abraham study, then it's probably going to be smaller than that. And we're going to find, hopefully, I haven't prepared ahead of time because I wanted you to be seeing my process in this. I'm looking for a page where I've got a spread like this, but close to the beginning of the book, where I've got a spread that doesn't have anything on it, so I can just do my maps on here. And I like this because this coffee dye is actually going to make the maps look really cool. So, all right, so I think you're probably thinking, oh, well, this is going to be easy. We're just going to glue them in, right? Nope. I had you print these out because you are going to draw your own map. And it's just easier if you draw it the same size as what you've got in front of you. So it's a lot easier than it sounds. I'm going to show you a method for copying a map that is really, really easy. And but again, this is not for perfectionists, and I was trying to think of how I could make it because those of you who are perfectionists, I respect that. I don't want to try to change you. I don't want to say that being a perfectionist is bad. If that's how God made you, then that's, you know, great. It comes with its own psychological challenges, as does messiness. We all come with our own baggage. But if you're a perfectionist, then you're probably going to want it to look really, really good. For me, getting down the basic idea is what's really important. And I don't see having it perfect as being important for learning. But I do want to say, if you're a perfectionist and what I'm going to show you bothers you, at least try to do it, and you can try to do it perfectly with a pencil and everything. And then if you want to also glue this in someplace, feel free to do that, or make it a flip out or something. But I would really, really strongly urge you to try making your own map, because that is going to make a difference in your learning. When you do something hands-on, you get a lot more out of it, even if it's not perfect, than you do if you just glue this in and look at it. You're just not going to get as much from it that way. So I'm going to set this aside so it doesn't keep getting in the way. Okay, so this map, Abraham and Canaan, is actually the easier map to do. So we're going to do that first, but we want this map to show up first. So since I'm going to do these right across from each other, or let me see if I have some more open pages. I might do something else here. If I have a spread fairly early on. Yeah. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is, just so that I can show this like two ways, I'm going to glue it in here, and I'm going to glue it in here, and I'm going to do it by hand here, or the other way around. So I'm going to put that there to mark that page right now, because that's where I'm going to do that, but I'm going to show you on this easier map first. Okay, and I'll try to show you on both of them. Okay, so what you need is you need a pencil or a pen. Okay, here's a weird thing about me. I cannot use pencils. They drive me nuts. It's like somebody running their fingernails on a chalkboard. So I do things in pen, and sometimes that means that it's messier because I make mistakes. But I would recommend using a pencil if you're okay with pencils. So you need a pen, you need your map, you need a spread for the map, and you need a pin, like a sewing pin, okay? And that's all you need. If you want coloring pencils later on to color it in, that's really, really helpful. So you can do that, but I'm not going to show you that. Okay, I'm just going to show you the basics of copying a map. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it down, and I use just a little bit of glue stick to hold it in place. If you have like some, what is that called, the temporary tape that you can use that you can pull back up, that would actually be even better, but I don't have that. So I'm just going to use a little bit of glue stick and I can pull it up. Okay, and then watch how easy this is, you guys. What you're going to do is you're going to take your pin and you're going to make pin pricks along just the major places. Now see how, okay, this didn't stick. We want it to stick. Before I pick up my pin, let me show you this. Okay, so see how there's these little thingies here, little islands and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to worry about that because it really has nothing to do with the story. So we're not going to make it all detailed like that. I'm going to make my pin pricks go just like along here, just to get the outline of this. And then I'm going to make my pin pricks along Abraham's route. And I'm going to make a pin prick wherever there's a city. Okay, maybe not all the cities, but the cities that have a marker by it like this, okay, because that way we know it's an important place. I really don't want to get it all cluttered with too much stuff. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure how much you can see from there, but I'm going to go along first along the edge. I've got an ant on my Bible scurrying around. I'm not sure if you can see him. I'm not sure how much of my Bible is showing. Okay, so I'm going along. Oh, it's not an ant, it's a little gnat. We have a really elderly dog, Eli, and he's having a hard time climbing the steps. Oh shoot. Okay, this really needs to be stuck in so that it'll stay in place while I'm doing this. He has a very hard time climbing the steps from the backyard up to our house. It's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 steps. And so we end up holding the door open for a long time. and mosquitoes love me. They don't even touch Bill. So I get all kinds of bites from that. Okay, so you really want to make sure that your map is stuck down so that it's not moving around. And mine may have moved around a little bit, so I may get kind of a weird coastline. But that's okay, because really Abraham doesn't seem to have gone out to the coast from anything that we can see, so we're not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see all my little pin pricks that I'm making so far. Okay, and take your time with it. I'm going kind of fast because I'm doing this on video. And for one thing, I feel self-conscious, but for another thing, my camera, it's on my phone, it tends to turn off after 30 minutes. Well, it doesn't turn off. It'll keep recording, but it starts a new video. So if this cuts off partway through, or any of my videos cut off partway through, just look, there will be another video with the rest of it. And I usually include that I include the link in the description box below. Okay, so I do want to have the Gulf of Suez here. Okay, so I'm going to make pinpricks around that. And if you're worried about going through to pages underneath the page that you're doing, because I am going through to pages underneath, you can put a piece of cardboard underneath it. I should have done that, and I forgot to bring one over, so I'm not doing it. But it doesn't really, well, yeah, it does kind of poke in there. It's not bad, though. And it gives your notebook character, right? Okay, so we have the Dead Sea here. We're going to go ahead and put that in, even though at the beginning of Abraham's journeys, the Dead Sea did not exist. We'll learn about that later. Okay, so I'm going around the Dead Sea, making pinpricks. Okay, and then I'm going to, I'm really not, I don't feel like I need to have this, the military route of the kings. We're going to be looking at that, but since we're going to go ahead and also glue this map in, we can just go ahead and put that up there. I'm really more interested in where Abraham has traveled, so I'm going to do any of the locations that have to do with him. Right now I'm making pinpricks for those. Sorry, I have to think a little bit more about this part because it's a little bit harder to see. Okay. Alright, so I got all those. And then I'm going to make pinpricks for his route. And I'm going to space those pretty closely because otherwise it's going to be hard. But, you know, basically what you're going to do is connect the dots. Okay, so it's really, really not difficult. I had a professor in college. I spent a semester at George Fox College. I went to Westmont, which is in Santa Barbara, California, and it's a very academically rigorous school. I spent a semester at Fox, which was not as academically rigorous, but I had a professor who was very difficult there, and I loved him. It's Dr. Carr. Can't remember his first name. It was a kind of strange name. He was young. He was like 35 or so, and he died the following semester. But I started out with like 2 or 3 of his classes, and I quit some of my other classes so that I could take on more of his classes because he was just amazing. And one of the things that he did was he had us draw maps from freehand. Now, he didn't do all these pinpricks. He wanted us to be able to draw a map of the Middle East from freehand. And a fourth of our grade in one of our classes was being able to draw a map of the Middle East with the 5 seas and, you know, Israel and some of the basic cities and for the time period that we were studying. And what he did was he took the stack of maps that everybody made, and he took his map and he just stuck a pin straight through. And that's what gave me the idea that I could do this. But he was the one that I really learned from, that maps are really important and they're really helpful in understanding what's going on. Okay, so now I'm just double checking to make sure I've got everything here. I did not get the Sea of Galilee up here at the top. It doesn't say the Sea of Galilee, but you could see another sea up there. So a small, it's actually a lake, but it was called a sea. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this off. And if you use glue stick like I did, you're going to have to like kind of work it off carefully. All right, there we go. Okay, so I've got that. I'm just going to go ahead and put this map right here. And I'm going to try not to get into the camera in front of you. I usually work really close to my paper, which is probably part of why I have such bad eyes. So it's going to be a little hard, but you can see all these little pinpricks. Okay, so I've basically got my outline of where I need to draw. You know, it's basically just connect the dots. Okay, so I'm going to start up here with the coastline, And like I said, you guys, it's wise to use pencil. I just can't, because it's just really, I have lots of weird quirks. Sorry, I'm just a really kind of weird person. And that's why my husband loves me. He loves that I'm crazy. He's always telling me I'm cute. Most men wouldn't. There's a movie, I can't remember what it's called. It has Reese Witherspoon in it. And this isn't like even the main thing in the movie, but this was something that I loved about it, was that there was a proposal. A friend of hers was in the hospital, and her boyfriend came and proposed to her. And what he said was that he didn't think that he was good enough for her, but then he realized that she had some quirks that other men might be annoyed at, and he was afraid of her marrying a man who would be annoyed at those quirks. And he realized that he needed to marry her because he loved those quirks. And I thought, that is so romantic. It's so sweet. Okay, so Abraham's route goes right up along the Sea of Galilee. Okay, and again, this is something that you notice more because you're doing the map, where you might not have noticed that quite as much before. Okay, so then it also comes around here and goes up here. Okay, and then, see, so this isn't perfect, but it gives the general idea. And for this kind of thing, we're not looking so much at being exact as we are looking at getting a good idea of where these things happened. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in some of these things into the map. So this is Egypt. Okay, and then here by the Salt Sea, or the Dead Sea, you have the Amorites. And a lot of these people didn't exist at that time yet, but it gives us an idea. Amalekites. This is just basically the land of Canaan. See, because in this map there's places like Jericho, which I don't think was built yet at that time. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was built yet. Okay, so that's why we're just looking for the things that have to do with Abraham. So we've got the Egyptian city of On, which is Heliopolis. Okay, and then we've got Ber Lahoi Rai, which is going to have to do with Hagar. Okay, there's my little dot. Ber Lahoi Roy. Okay. And so I'm just filling in. Like I said, I just went for the major cities that are important. Mamre, we've already talked about Mamre. You know that that's important, and it will become even more important. So I can tell where it is because I've got a dot here, but how do I know which dot is which? I look at the coastline that I've drawn in. I look at where it is in location in relation to the Dead Sea. So it's a little bit more than halfway up the route from the Dead Sea. So it's right, I've got a little dot there. So that's got to be it. So that's Mamre. So I'm going to write that in. And it'll look a lot more like a map if I color it, which I may or may not do. Okay, and then what else is important here is there's not really a name of a place there. This is up towards the top of the Dead Sea. So I'm going to draw a little line out. I'm actually going to be a little bit of a perfectionist here and use a ruler, just because if I don't have a straight line, it's going to look like part of the map. And actually, I think I'm going to use a different color of pen for that. Make sure this works. Yeah. Okay, so for my lines, I'm going to use a slightly different color so that it doesn't get mixed up with the map. And then Mamre, we're going to do out here. One of the nice things about just trying to get the highlights is that you don't have as much map to worry about, and so You have more room for writing things. And seriously, you guys, you're going to love doing this. It's going to be very, very helpful. And you're going to feel so talented when you finish your map, because it's like you looked at this before and thought, there's no way I could do that. But you can, and it's so much fun. Okay, so now we're back to doing the cities. Okay, so I want Bethel, which is just above the top of, it's on his route, but it's a little bit above the Dead Sea. So I'm looking for a little hole there that's slightly off his route. Yep, right here. So that's Bethel. Let's make our little line out there. I hope this isn't like super boring for you to watch, but I did want you to see how I'm doing it, because I didn't want to just try to point at things and explain it. And that's we're just doing, yeah, that's all that we're going to do. We're just doing the cities that have these little flag thingies off of them telling what they are. We're not going to worry about the ones that are on the, oh wait, here's another AI, or some people say I. That is really close to Bethel. Okay, so right there. So let's write Bethel here. Or you know, most people I think say Bethel. Part of the reason why I go ahead with Bethel or Bet-El is because it means house of God. Whenever you see Beth, or it would be pronounced Bet, B-E-T-H, it means house. And so El is God, house of God, or house of the Lord. Okay, and we've got Shechem. Also, we want to put in Shechem. So that's up quite a ways here. It's where it's not up to the Sea of Galilee though. Okay, so it's like right here is Shechem. So we've got Shechem. Okay. And I'm going to make my little line. I'm actually going to make this line go down this way. Okay. Now, I'm not going to write in those little bubbles right now, because that just would take extra time, and I don't think you need my help to do that. But you can either like just hand draw a rectangle, or if you have a like a stencil or something that has a rectangle on it. I don't have one nearby. I have one though. Then you can use that. I'll probably just draw it by hand, or I might not even draw a rectangle around it since I'm using a different color pen. I may just not worry about that. I would color in the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, just because that will make it easier to, and I would also like draw the Jordan River in between those, because that'll just make it easier. Those are kind of your main reference points, if you will, in Israel, is the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee. Those, when you see those two things, then you kind of know where you are. Okay, so that's all that you need to do. If you color that in, it's going to look a lot more like a map. Okay, and color in the Mediterranean Sea also. I would go ahead and I'm going to do my legend here, you know, of what everything means. And I'm going to color in the route with whatever color. I'll probably use red just like they did, and use dotted lines just like they did for his other routes. But just go ahead and copy that. You definitely want your miles or kilometers down here. The Gulf of Suez is important to have down there. If you want to put in the Gulf of Arabah, that might help you. If you want to put in the military route, you can do that. To me, it's just not really as important, but because you can just look at it on this map. It's not as important as knowing where Abraham went. So that's basically how you do a map. And then I will go ahead and glue this in here when I'm done. It's easier for me to have it not glued so I can look at it when I'm doing this. But I'll glue it in here when I'm done, just that I have one that's more perfect, I guess. But going through the exercise of drawing it and labeling it is going to make a big difference in your understanding. And when we do things where I tell you to mark things on your map, if you've got both this and the hand-drawn map, then I would mark it in both places. So anyway, so that's how you do it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, preferably in the comment box, because other people probably have the same questions, or they might not have thought of the question, and when they see it, they'll go, oh, that's a good question. If it's not something I can answer in the comments, I'll make another video to show how to do whatever it is that you're wondering about. Also the Nile. You've got the Nile here. If you want to do that and you want to do the Nile Delta, you can. You don't have to, because that really doesn't have anything to do with the story. So that's up to you. And latitude and longitude, that's up to you too. Any of the other things that are on the map that you want to include, you're welcome to. I would, if you spend some time looking at the map and looking at some of these other places, you might recognize some if you've read the Bible a lot. If you haven't, then just being aware of where they are will help you to understand the Bible stories as you read them. Like seeing where Jericho is and everything. It's right across from across the Jordan River. So when you read about Joshua and the people coming into Jericho, it just makes so much more sense, the things that are said about it, and understanding how important it was to come across the Jordan, and what a miracle that was and everything. So, but that's a whole different story. So I'm not going to get into that. But just having these maps will make a huge difference to you. So please, I hope that you will try making your own map. You saw, it's not that hard to do. It's actually pretty easy. And when it's colored, it's going to look a whole lot better. And I would recommend using colored pencils. Use something light rather than like paint, because what you've written is not going to show up very well if you use paint, or I guess watercolors might work out okay. But anyway, colored pencils or watercolors. I wouldn't use crayons. Crayons are going to be hard for you to write on and highlight. Okay, I love you all, and that's it for the maps. Very easy. Do the same thing with, I was going to show you both, but we're running out of time, and I know that my camera is going to give out. So do the same thing with this one, the migration of Abraham, and all that you need is, these red ones, these red routes. Okay? And then I do like the coastline of the Mediterranean. Make sure that you get in the Euphrates River and Babylon, because it's really good to be able to compare it to Babylon, Padan Aram, and I would put in Damascus, Hebron, Jerusalem. Jerusalem, wasn't actually, Jerusalem I think did exist then, and Carchemish I would put in. So just, put in some of those main places there. And I'm looking for, here's Haran. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have Haran in too, because that's where they stopped with Terah. They went as far as Haran with Terah, and then they came back out. Abraham came out this way. Okay, so I love you all. Like I said, if you have any questions, because I may not have explained that very well, and that's probably a good reason to wait and do this map a little bit later myself, just in case you have any questions. I could do it on another map. Okay, I love you all, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.